Hey guys, this is Sports with Dylan. It was about 10 seconds ago that I finished filming my last video. As I mentioned at the beginning of last video, there was too much to put all in one video. That video was already 9 minutes long. This video should be about equal length, maybe a bit longer. Same little things though. In this video, couple coaches hired, couple fired, that kind of thing. So, stay tuned. First up today, the most surprising move of the offseason. Remember last video when I said that if Brian Flores, David Culley, and Don Martindale hadn't been fired, Anthony Lynn would have been the most surprising move of the offseason for coaching? Well, I was wrong. There's someone more surprising than Don Martindale getting fired. Yep, Sean Payton is retiring as a head coach in the NFL. I was shocked when I saw this. More shocked than Don Martindale. But at least I can sort of figure out an explanation because he wasn't fired. But I'm kind of nitpicking here. I still don't quite understand it. So, he's 58. I wouldn't call that retirement age yet. But someone might. Anyways, he has had a good career. And he's made plenty of money. So he could retire. But he seemed to like the job. That's what I don't understand most. He liked being a head coach. Now I get Drew Brees is gone, but they did well without him this year, despite starting 4 different quarterbacks. If they re-sign Winston, assuming he doesn't get injured again, I think they would easily make the playoffs. Like, they're 5-2 with him. So, I think Winston's a really good quarterback. So, I have no idea why he would retire. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if he did something sort of like Bruce Arians did. So he retires from the Saints, and then a couple of years he comes back. Most likely Cowboys. Don't know where those rumors came from. Maybe it's just that Jerry Jones likes to find really good coaches, so if Jerry Jones would pay him enough, he'd come out of retirement and be the head coach for the Cowboys. That would actually make sense. Mike McCarthy hasn't been great, so unless they do win the Super Bowl in the next 2 years. Wouldn't surprise me if Mike McCarthy's at the door and Sean Payton walks in. But we'll see. Now, who might replace Sean Payton's the bigger question. I think the top candidate is Dennis Allen, the Saints defensive coordinator, because he could be a head coach. He's been taking interviews along with other teams. But if you wanted to stick with the Saints, they should offer him the job. I would say he's a really good candidate. So I think he will become the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Aside from him, I guess the other option is pretty much anyone else I named on my video. Coach is fired. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Because any option works. There's no connections between people. So there could be any of those coaches that could become the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints. But as I said, the most likely option, Dennis Allen. Easy. Now, it just got really dark in here in the past 30 seconds or so. Anyways, I turned on a couple extra lights, so if you're wondering why the lighting looks different, that's why. 2 coaches were both hired this morning. Both to the Broncos and Bears, respectively. Starting off with the Bears, new GM Ryan Poles was somehow the first person to hire a coach. I mean, applaud how quickly you can go from having no GM and no coach. Within 48 hours, you've got both a GM and a coach. That's very rare. Normally it takes the GM at least a week to get a new coach, but Ryan Poles works quickly. We'll have to see how that works out for him. But the Bears have now hired Matt Eberflus, the Colts defensive coordinator, as their head coach. Now, this isn't much of a surprise. Eberflus's co-coach, is that a word? Anyways, they work together in Indianapolis. Nick Sirianni obviously left last season for the Eagles. That one was more of a surprise. Most people said Matt Eberflus is better than Sirianni. But, hey, the Eagles have had tremendous success this year, so I think those people have been silenced. Anyways, the Bears now get another defensive-minded coach after they went with offensive-minded with Matt Nagy. It'll be interesting. I didn't really think that the Bears needed either offensive-minded or defensive-minded more than the other. They have a talented defense. They have Akeem Hicks, who might leave in free agency, Roquan Smith, Robert Quinn, Khalil Mack, All-Pro. So they've got a good defense to work with. They just need proper coaching, and they'll be great. But they've also got a young, talented offense, and they want someone good to develop Justin Fields. But you could also argue that it's not Justin Fields that needs developing. It's that they need a proper offensive line so that Justin Fields doesn't get sacked before he can throw the ball. That's what I would argue. Now, I think Justin Fields needs a bit of development, but I think he's been a good quarterback. But at the same time, you can't keep getting sacked that much. It just shouldn't happen. He can't throw the ball away. And soon enough, he's going to get injured with this. They do have second-round rookie Tevin Jenkins, who I think was a great pick, but he is a bit injury-prone. So we'll see how that works. But, yeah, these are the kinds of people they need. They need younger rookies that will hold up their offensive line instead of a ton of veterans and players that just can't stop any defense. So, it'll be interesting to see. I bet you Matt Eberflus will try and hire one of the best offensive coordinators he can find, because, as I said, Justin Fields could still use a bit of development. But, we'll see. The other coach that was hired was one, I would argue, the most deserving this offseason. That's saying quite a bit, because there were some really deserving coaches. Actually, scratch that, second most deserving. Eric Bieniemy is still the most deserving. Don't know why he doesn't have a head coaching job. Anyways, Nathaniel Hackett, the Packers' offensive coordinator, is the new head coach of the Broncos. Now, this is interesting, because the Broncos are a lot like the Bears, in the way that they have a talented defense. Yes, they trade away Von Miller, but they have Bradley Chubb, Justin Simmons, Patrick Surtain, who's been great as a rookie. So, they have a talented defense. So you'd think with, like, Vic Fangio, they'd want to go defensive-minded coach. But instead, they went offense. And the offense will be interesting, because I'm not sure if they'll actually try and draft a quarterback to develop. I think they've got a team. Like, they've got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, and KJ Hamler, and Tim Patrick, all as receivers, plus Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon as running backs. Plus a good offensive line, led by Garrett Bowles, they have a good team, as you can see. And then, as I mentioned, defensive side of the ball, Bradley Chubb is the biggest name there now, but you've got a good secondary, led by Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain. So it's a really good team you've got. I think it would make a lot of sense. People have talked about this for a while. Like a Rodgers trade. So they could trade for Rodgers, do the same thing they did with Peyton Manning. Or a Wilson trade, get someone a bit younger, but still quarterback, and they will win now. Or my favorite option, a Watson trade, because he's a young quarterback, but he's great. And if the Broncos think they can hold up the momentum, plus, okay, you can't argue. That would be awesome to have Herbert, Mahomes, and Watson in one division all together. That would be so fun to watch. Like, you've got 3 all young quarterbacks, all in their mid and early 20s. All amazing, all top 5 when playing nowadays. So that would be awesome. That would be my dream, to watch these 3 quarterbacks face off. I mean, you've already got, like, twice a year we saw Herbert versus Mahomes, and both of those games were amazing. Both quarterbacks just balled it out, played their hardest, each won one of them. So now throw in Watson to that division, that would be awesome. So, obviously that's my favorite option. They could also go with someone in free agency or someone else by trade that's not as big name, but we'll see. Anyways, Nathaniel Hackett will most likely be the one to help with that quarterback. So, I don't think he'll be the one to develop a quarterback. I think he'll be just rolling the offense how it is, but now with a star quarterback. Now, we haven't really seen Nathaniel Hackett's work at developing a quarterback. I don't know if he's amazing at it or not. Because, like, they did draft Jordan Love, but we've seen him play 2 games? Yeah, I think it's that. So, we don't really, like, he hasn't looked good in either of those games, but he's kind of thrown into fire for both of them, so it's tough to say. I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett can develop a quarterback well. Because, yeah, Rodgers has been there for much longer than Hackett, so we'll see. But I cannot argue the fact that someone that's likely to win 2 back-to-back MVPs, their offensive coordinator should get a head coaching job. Now, who might replace these people is the question. For the Packers, Luke Getsy, their quarterback's coach, should get the coordinator's job. He's been interviewing for head coaching jobs, but unlikely he'll get any this year. But, again, he helped Aaron Rodgers get 2, well, likely 2 back-to-back MVPs. Not 2, 1 and the official runner-up of the MVP. So, Aaron Rodgers has been great. So, he definitely deserves to be an offensive coordinator, if not a head coach. So, again, I can guarantee you that he will either be the offensive coordinator on a different team or the Packers offensive coordinator. He will be an offensive coordinator somewhere when this is all over. Now for the Colts, so it's more of an interesting situation. You don't really have someone that you can go and point out and say, hey, this person deserves a coordinator job. So it wouldn't surprise me, again, I've talked about this multiple times now. Find someone, like either a defensive coordinator that's been fired, or that will be fired with a good team, or a defensive-minded head coach. Again, Vic Fangio comes to mind right away, because, yeah, he's a good defensive-minded coach. He was not good at all as a head coach, but he's been good. with the Bears as their defensive coordinator. I know the Bears now suck, but they went 12-4 when he's their defensive coordinator. So another one would be Brian Flores. Now, again, he's interviewing for head coach jobs, and I think he still deserves one. But if he doesn't get one, then he could easily get another defensive coordinator job. And I think that the Colts would be a great situation for him. He'd go to a good team with a good defense, a couple years' time, maybe even next year, and bam, he's back as a head coach. You could also take a really good defensive coordinator, such as Patrick Graham or Gus Bradley. Both of those would make a ton of sense as, again, defensive coordinators. They're close to being head coaches. Now, Gus Bradley, if Rick Bisaccia stays, he'll likely keep Gus Bradley. And it's also potential that the Raiders go, hey, Bisaccia was good, but it was Bradley that was doing all the work. So, hey, let's promote Bradley to the head coaching job. Now, Patrick Graham is unlikely to get his own team's head coaching job, but he definitely deserves another defensive coordinator job. So yeah, Colts, again, good situation. DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard, rookie Kwity Paye on that defense. You've got talented people to work with. So, we'll see who they hire. Thanks for watching.